It started with a simple message, and it ignited a much-needed conversation. Representation matters. Two words that I've heard consistently throughout my life, and more so in the last couple of days, all because of the way I chose to wear my hair to work. Since October, my perspective has been viewed more than 1 million times across the state of Texas and even around the world. And let me tell you, this issue, it's widespread. Listen to this. From Australia to Barbados to South Africa and even back here at home. Many of you sent messages describing your own experiences about hair discrimination. And a lot of us know that this has happened for far too long. It's not only time for us to talk about it, but to address the root cause of the issue. And that's exactly what we intend to do in my new series. We're calling this here, Rooted. We're going beyond the surface to discuss the unspoken need of representation and what professionalism looks like in the workplace. So join me every Thursday on Daybreak as we dig into the issue and uproot the problems.
You guys know my character, you know my heart. I felt that they shouldn't judge me based upon my appearance.
His dream was to protect and serve, a dream eventually put on hold.
To say that a black police officer with cornrows is unprofessional, what does that say about you and the way you view black people that wear cornrows? The conversation is needed, but it's hard to have those conversations because to have those conversations, we have to admit that we have a problem.
That problem for Officer Dakari Davis started 6 years after he joined the law enforcement community while he was working as a DART police officer in 2019.
I was upset, confused.
Davis says he never thought his appearance, specifically the way he wears his hair in this braided hairstyle, would interfere with his ability to do his job.
There was a particular lieutenant who disagreed with that, and he felt that it was unprofessional for male police officers to wear cornrows. And so he took it upon himself to contact the chief of police and eventually filed a formal complaint against my hairstyle.
DART won't comment directly on this personnel matter, but documents obtained by WFAA show Davis was ordered not to wear the hairstyle while in full uniform. Months later, Davis wore the hairstyle again during an awards ceremony. His action sparked an internal affairs investigation in November. The findings of that report referred to his braided or cornrows hairstyle as, quote, unprofessional and unapproved.
I actually decided to cut my hair out of fear of retaliation. And I said, you know what, I have a son, I have a family, I have to provide for them. And I said, you know what, I'm just gonna cut my hair.
The complaint against Davis lists 5 allegations, including insubordination for disobeying a direct order from a supervisor and violation of the police department's dress code policy, all of which ultimately led to Davis being placed on paid administrative leave, a recommendation for termination, and a letter of reprimand.
I actually had a lot of support. My wife, my family, my friends, a couple co-workers.
Why are you having an issue with his hair?
Davis eventually reached out to Dallas County Commissioner John Wiley Price, who interceded on his behalf.
Has he been performing? And the only issue you see is as he's transitioning with his hair? That's unacceptable. And so they basically told me, said to cool my jets, and they'd handle it.
And they did. 7 months later, the letter of reprimand was rescinded in September of 2020 with this notice from DART COO Carol Wise. Davis was returned back to his full assignment as a motorcycle officer without restrictions. Now DART is taking another look at some of the same policies that led to this entire ordeal.
We are currently under a complete review of our appearance policy. And as you can imagine, you know, as times change, people have different desires, different looks. We understand that as you want to be able to, of course, work your job, but also you want to be able to have a little bit of yourself to be able to present yourself in a particular way.
Even as those changes are being discussed, Davis says it's important to recognize the underlying bias regarding hair in the workplace.
If you know me and I wear this uniform and I stand right beside you and do this job every day just like you, and you view me in that manner. What does that say about how you view someone that doesn't wear the uniform?
In Dallas, I'm Tashara Parker. Commissioner John Wiley Price. Look, it's not lost on me that you don't do a whole lot of interviews, so thank you for taking some time, graciously taking some time to interview with us. All right, so we've been talking about a transgenerational look at Black hair and professionalism. So if you had to talk about Black hair in your time in public office, has it ever been a concern for you, or has it ever come up in conversation?
Oh, it's come up in conversations. It was interesting. A lot of comments, a lot of speaking engagements. When people say, well, are you really a county commissioner with your hair like that? Yeah, kind of. And so it just kind of comes with the package now. I am Commissioner John Wiley Price. And guess what? This is my hair story.
You've been in your position for 36 years at this point. Walk me through kind of the evolution of how you wore your hair.
I've had the afro. I've had the beards. The mustache. I've gone through all of that, but I'm comfortable in where I am.
You've been rocking your hair like this for a really long time. In fact, I saw a picture over there from 2001 saying John Wiley Price rocking a new do. How did it go over with people when you initially started rocking your twists?
It was like, what's happened? Is there something in your life that is happening? Why are you doing this? But that's 2 decades. It was just an evolution of where I wanted to go.
I want to backtrack a little bit, and I want you to tell me some of the comments that have been made over the years about your hair.
Other than, well, why you want to do that? I mean, really? I don't think it, quote, becomes you. I've got to be comfortable. I can't be concerned about, what they're saying. And I've had individuals say, I can't believe you're a county commissioner with that hair? Black hair is the epitome of who you are. I can pretty much look at your hair and tell something about you. And that's what I want them to do. I'm gonna keep saying, my skin, I'm comfortable in my hair. That's it.
If you had to explain Black hair discrimination to someone who is not Black, how would you help them understand some of the things that people are facing in the workplace?
That would be probably a real challenge, but I used to tell young people, my hair is twisted and not my brain. But in terms of texture and how you're doing with your hair, what? As long as you're able to perform, as long as you represent me mentally in a way that I can be proud.
Rooted. It's a celebration, a conversation, all in consideration of Black hair.
When I started first grade, I had naturally curly hair. All the girls in my class had pretty straight hair. I was born with naturally curly hair. So therefore, I begged my mom to let me get my hair straightened so I could look like everybody else. And back then, we used a hot comb. Actually put it on the fire and straighten your hair. So I started going to the beauty shop and they would straighten my hair. We had the curlers and curlers. So I felt like I was in place with the rest of the students.
Do you ever look back on that moment and understand where your mom was coming from?
Yes, and I truly regret that I didn't listen to her. Because my hair, even though it's curly now, to me it's not as pretty as it was back then.
We understand as African Americans fought for our rights to exist in America, to be seen and be heard as people, as humans, right? And so a part of that, proving that we were worthy, proving that we were just like everyone else, meant assimilation. It meant I can read the books, I can speak the same way, I can wear my hair the same way.
I thought straight hair was the standard because that's all I knew. As I explained to you about the pressing comb, and then I graduated to relaxers. So I didn't know anything else. No one ever talked to me about how beautiful my natural texture was, or that it was an option. All I ever heard was griping about, oh my gosh, it would take forever to do your hair if it was natural, it's so thick. Like, you need to get a relaxer and tame it. Relax your hair and you keep everybody around you relaxed. Because black hair has been so politicized. You go back to the 70s when, people associated afros with, black power, and somehow that was a bad thing.
I think the reason that straight hair is associated with beauty is because that's what we see in the magazines, that's what's all over TV. As a parent, I try to teach my girls, and my son too, that however you look, that's how you look. And you're beautiful just the way that you are.
It makes me confident to rock my natural hair, because some girls, like, if they don't make their hair the neatest as possible, as they can that day, they'll ask for a brush to fix it.
As a black woman who has worked in predominantly white institutions my entire career, I have to be very intentional about the things that I say sometimes and how I say them. Delivery is very important, but it does mean that you are hyper aware all of the time. And you're hyper aware because we live in a society that tells you that certain groups act certain ways.
Okay, so when I decided to transition into being natural, there was a reaction at work. It was definitely just going from bone straight to again, cutting off all of my hair, showing my natural curl. I remember a CEO of my company just coming to me and saying, like, is there something going on? To the point that maybe I was sick, or was I making a statement? Was somebody else sick in my family? I mean, it was, I had to prepare myself when I decided to make a transition that I was going to be answering a lot of questions that made me very uncomfortable. And I wasn't prepared for that at all mentally.
At one place that I worked, I once had someone just come up and say, oh my goodness, how long did this take? How long? What all did you have to do? And just run their fingers through my hair. And at that point, I was just pretty over it. So I just walked away. I was just like, I can't deal with this right now. And later that day, I think I went and found someone that I could talk to who understands having black hair and having those microaggressions.
Natural hair is our birthright. Natural hair is a part of our ancestry. Natural hair is how we sleep and wake up and how we love ourselves. So it should be a thing that should be natural. And our hair and our curls and our coils and our twists and our braids show that, because that's the only language everyone across the country speaks.
If someone said good hair to you, what would that look like to you? If you had to explain what good hair meant to you.
Good hair means any way you want to wear your hair is good hair. I think God created us all equal, and he made our hair different for a reason.
Variations of the Crown Act have been introduced in dozens of states. The Crown Act stands for Creating a Respectable and Open World for Natural Hair. A version has been introduced in both the Texas House and Senate. Ashley Godot of our Austin station reminds us why this fight is needed.
Hair discrimination was put on full display in 2018. A referee told a high school wrestler in New Jersey he had to cut off his locks before a match or forfeit. Lawmakers across the country spoke out, and in 2019, California became the first state to pass the Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair, or Crown Act. To put it plainly, the law states a person can't be denied employment and educational opportunities because of the texture of their hair or for wearing it in protective styles, including braids, locks, and twists. As one state was passing policies to protect black hair, Texas was getting national attention for penalizing it.
I was called down to the office every day. It's a crazy feeling because it's like, what is going on? Why are they doing this to me? Like, it's confusing, it's depressing, and it's stressful.
Last year, DeAndre Arnold was suspended from Barbers Hill High School outside of Houston and banned from walking the stage at his high school graduation because he wouldn't cut the locks he had been growing since he was 12 years old.
You would think it's just hair, but no, it's not like that. It's actually a part of who I am. Growing up around my dad's side of the family, they're from Trinidad and Tobago. This is something you see all the time. You see dreadlocks, and it's like, me seeing that as a kid, it's like, I really want to be a part of this. I want to emulate this and express this culture. I like this.
1 year later, the district's policy requiring the length of a male student's hair to be above the collar hasn't changed.
It really is a shame that in 2020, that was last year, or 2021, we still are dealing with this.
State Representative Ron Reynolds met with DeAndre.
And I applauded him for taking a stand, for being willing to stand on principle, and he wasn't willing to conform to what the school deemed acceptable in terms of hair.
In February 2020, Reynolds and the members of the Texas Legislative Black Caucus vowed to fight hair discrimination the next time the legislature met. That time is now. Representatives Reynolds, Retta Bowers, and Sean Theory all filed versions of the Crown Act, a show of solidarity to show how important this legislation is.
To impose a European standard of hairstyle on people of African descent is not equity. And so it's time that in the state of Texas that we get on board and we make a statement that we believe in African Americans' right to just be and wear their God-given natural hair texture.
Representative Reynolds and Senator Boris Miles filed a bill in both chambers to ban discrimination against people who wear their hair in braids, locks, or twists in Texas schools and businesses.
You should be judged on your merits and not how you wear your hair.
Bowers' version of the bill goes one step further, ensuring people with natural hairstyles can't be discriminated against in housing.
In our style, and whether that's hair or wardrobe, that is an expression of yourself. And you should feel in school, in the workplace, and in where you live, you should feel comfortable to be yourself.
Theory's version bans discrimination in businesses and schools and requires cultural awareness training for teachers.
Without cultural competency, they really don't have an appreciation or awareness for what our hair means to us as African Americans.
3 bills, 1 goal.
Our goal is united, to make sure that in Texas that we ban discrimination based upon hair.
And this legislation is personal. Bowers' nephew wanted to wear his hair in twists. Reynolds' daughter was told not to wear braids at an internship. And Theory's daughter came home from elementary school crying after hearing a teacher berate a black classmate with a racist comment about her hair.
There are a lot more stories than we've ever really heard of. I think it was something that was swept under the rug, kind of at everyone's kitchen table, those conversations. But this is legislation that is necessary.
The movement is growing. Just this month, Connecticut became the latest state to adopt a version of the Crown Act. The governor there tweeting the measure is critical to helping build a more equitable society. Here in Texas, there are 4 versions of the Crown Act filed in the legislature this session, 3 in the House and 1 in the Senate. All of those bills are sitting in their respective chambers' state affairs committees awaiting public hearings. Tashara?
As you can see, this isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of problem, as you can find victims all across the spectrum, from women in the workplace to teenage boys in high school. Ashley and I delved into the politics of all of this stuff in our WFA podcast, Y'all-itics.
We're talking about other hair today, your hair. We have 2 guests today. I'm big fans of Tashara Parker and Ashley Godot. Tashara is a WFA in Dallas. Ashley is our friend at KVU in Austin. Welcome to Y'all-itics, y'all.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate you guys having us.
It is great to have you here. We're talking about the Rooted series today, and for people who don't know, it has caught fire. Can you take us back, Tashara, to the beginnings of this, which seemed like they were a long time ago, considering how much this has caught fire, but it seems like it really was just kind of yesterday.
Crazy how a hairstyle triggered such feedback, right? And so it all started back in October. That's when everything went crazy. I wore a hairstyle on WFAA's morning news show, and basically the hairstyle was 4, let's just call them 4 buns going down the middle of my head. 4 neatly parted buns, I will add. And, you know, it triggered quite a bit of feedback. Most of that feedback, I have to say, was positive, but you had a lot of folks just sending some very negative comments, not just to me. They would send them to the station and just to other folks, and basically just saying, look, that is not professional. You shouldn't wear your hair that way. Why won't you just wear it straight, and all these other different things that they were saying. And so that's what kind of triggered the responses that we started getting online from other folks, basically just coming to my defense, saying, hey, your hair looked good, disregard what those other folks are talking about. And you started seeing pictures and images of young girls wearing their hair with the 4 buns, and mostly their parents were saying it's because they hadn't seen something like that on a morning news show on local TV. So I think that's what triggered that crazy response back in October, and it's been ongoing ever since.
Just to be real clear here, though, there's always feedback when you appear on TV.
Yeah.
You know, people will comment on the color of your tie, the color of your dress. They didn't like, you got lipstick on your teeth. This is a different thing. This is a different category. This is about race. This is about my body is different than your body, and this is about I don't like that your body is different than my body, and I think you should look more like me.
Yeah, real. That's keeping it real, 100, as I would like to say. And basically, what ended up happening is it comes down to black hair and professionalism, right? When I wear my hair straight, I don't hear a peep from anyone other than, oh, your hair looks good today. And that's considered a microaggression for you to say, oh, the one time that I wear my hair straight, something you're used to seeing, something that's deeply rooted in Eurocentric standards of beauty, you're finally saying that it's cute or nice or whatever you want to call it. But when I wear my hair in its natural state, you know, I get comments like, oh, it looks like you stuck your hand in a socket, an electrical socket, you know, all kind of crazy stuff. And so, yes, it does come down to race, because I'm not the only one that has experienced this. And I think that's why the feedback was so massive online around the world. By the way, that video, Our Perspectives, back in October, it's been viewed 2 million times, and that's on one video that I can find. On other videos, probably even more than that. But 2 million times, because other women, other black women, women of color, have experienced some of these same things in the workplace as it relates to showing up in their natural state. And I'll go on and add that, you know, studies have basically shown that when we're able to show up as our natural selves 100%, people perform better. So why not allow your employees, your students, you know, even in the education system, to show up as their natural selves, their normal selves, 100% authentically themselves in the workplace. So I think that's why I kind of went crazy too, because I'm not the only one that's experienced this. All the stories and feedback that we've gotten over the last few months has just been astronomical.
I think you said you were kind of caught off guard by it because you were wearing your hair naturally, but you wrote something for WFAA.com, and I want to pull out a line you wrote because it really struck me when I was reading this. It says, "It takes a level of confidence for black women to show up fully in all their glory without having to adjust to who's in the room or how they will be perceived once they get there." Explain that, because that came from the heart.
Yeah, it really did. And I honestly get chills hearing that again every time I hear it, to be honest with you, because I meant it. It's hard for black women when we go into certain spaces just completely to be ourselves. And what I mean by that is there's a thing called code switching, right? You know, and code switching is when you go into certain spaces where you feel like you have to adjust. I say adjust to the energy that's in the room, right? You got to adjust how you talk. You got to adjust how you respond to people. You got to adjust how loud you are. You got to adjust how your hair looks, how you walk, how you act, you know, in all these different situations. And I always tell young girls, especially now, that in order for you to show up in your full glory, you have to walk into those spaces and you have to change the energy that's within those spaces. So what I mean by that is just, it's hard sometimes because we've been told for so many years that us being our natural selves, our authentic selves, is something that is frowned upon. You know, we get touted as the angry black woman just because you have a direct response to something, right? That doesn't come off all nice and happy all the time, happy-go-lucky. You know, you get that particular label. So there are many things that have led up to this point of black women not being able to show up as themselves fully in every single space. But that line was basically just saying, man, y'all don't understand like how much work it takes to move in these spaces as yourself. It is hard. And I applaud every Black woman who is in space, because it's nice for me to have this platform and to be on here talking to you guys about this. But there are so many women, so many stories who can't share them, who haven't been able to share them, who suffer in silence. And so when I say walk in your glory, show up in your glory, it takes a level of confidence to do that. I mean that because I know there are so many stories that are being left untold, even in the midst of all the stories that we'll share on Rooted.